I am in great distress. The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has departed from me."
A king stands alone in the dark, begging the spirit of a dead prophet for help, because the God who once chose him has gone silent. How did it come to this? This is the true story of Saul, the first king of Israel. He did not seize the throne. He was hiding from it when God found him, a humble young man who stood a head taller than anyone in the land. God filled him with his spirit, and in his first battle, he saved his people and silenced every doubter. But Saul's problem was never greatness. It was obedience. One by one, he chose his own way over God's, until the kingdom was torn from his hands and given to a shepherd boy he could not stop loving, and then could not stop hunting. Stay with us until the end, because this is the story of how a man who had everything lost it all, not in one great sin, but in a slow refusal to bend. And somewhere in his fall, you may recognize a warning meant for you. If you are new here, subscribe to Arc Films channel so you never miss a story. And if this mission means something to you, join the Arc crew and help us bring the word of God to people who have never heard it like this. Let's begin. When Israel demanded a king like the nations around them, God chose to give them one. But the man he chose was not looking for a crown. He was looking for donkeys. His name was Saul, the son of Kish, from Benjamin, the smallest tribe in the land. He was handsome, a head taller than anyone around him, yet he thought nothing of himself. For 3 days, he and his servant searched the hills for his father's lost animals and found nothing. Worn out, they turned to a man of God in a nearby town, hoping he could tell them where to look. That man was the prophet Samuel. The day before, God had quietly told him that a young Benjamite would arrive, and that this was the man to lead his people. When Saul came asking about the donkeys, Samuel had far bigger news for him.
"As for the donkeys you lost 3 days ago, do not worry about them, they have been found. And to whom is all the desire of Israel turned, if not to you and your whole family line?"
But am I not a Benjamite, from the smallest tribe of Israel? And is not my clan the least of all the clans of the tribe of Benjamin? Why do you say such a thing to me?
The next morning, Samuel took a flask of olive oil, poured it over Saul's head, and kissed him.
"Has not the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance?"
Later, Samuel gathered all Israel and cast lots to let God point out his choice. Tribe by tribe, the lot fell to Saul, son of Kish. But Saul was gone. The same reluctance now sent him into hiding, and they found him among the baggage. They brought him out, and there he stood, towering over them all.
"Do you see the man the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among all the people."
Long live the king!
But not everyone was convinced. A few troublemakers sneered.
How can this fellow save us?
Not long after, a new threat rose in the east. Nahash, king of the Ammonites, marched on the Israelite town of Jabesh-Gilead and surrounded it. The people inside begged for peace, but Nahash would agree to only one kind of treaty.
I will make a treaty with you, only on the condition that I gouge out the right eye of every one of you, and so bring disgrace on all Israel.
The town pleaded for 7 days to find a rescuer, or they would surrender. When the news reached Gibeah, Saul's hometown, the people wept, certain no one could save them. Saul was just coming in from the fields, walking behind his oxen, when he heard the crying and asked what was wrong. The moment he understood, the Spirit of God rushed upon him and he burned with anger. He took a pair of oxen, cut them into pieces, and sent them across the whole land with a warning.
This is what will be done to the oxen of anyone who does not follow Saul and Samuel.
A fear from God fell over the people, and they came out as one. 300,000 men from Israel and 30,000 from Judah rallied to him. Saul sent word back to Jabesh that by the time the sun was hot the next day, they would be rescued. Before dawn, he split his army into 3, stormed the Ammonite camp, and by midday the enemy lay shattered and scattered. Then the people turned on the men who had once doubted their king.
Who was it that asked, "Shall Saul reign over us?" Turn these men over to us so that we may put them for death.
No one will be put to death today, for this day the Lord has rescued Israel.
At Gilgal, all Israel made him king once more, with sacrifices and a celebration greater than any they had known. Saul had never stood higher. Saul's first failure did not come on a battlefield. It came while he was waiting. The Philistines, Israel's fiercest enemy, gathered against him, an army so vast it could not be counted, with thousands of chariots and foot soldiers. Terrified, Saul's men scattered into caves and pits, and some even fled across the Jordan River. Saul waited at Gilgal. God had commanded him, through Samuel, to wait 7 days before going into battle. But the 7th day was slipping away. Samuel had not come, and Saul's army was melting away in front of him. Afraid to face the Philistines without first seeking God's favor, Saul did what only a priest was allowed to do. He made the offering himself. He had barely finished when Samuel arrived.
When I saw that the men were scattering, and that you did not come at the set time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal. And I had not sought the Lord's favor, so I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering.
You have done a foolish thing. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people.
Because you have not kept the Lord's command.
Saul was still king, but God had already chosen the man who would one day take his place. The war with the Philistines dragged on. Saul now had only 600 men camped under a pomegranate tree on the edge of Gibeah. It was not Saul who moved first. It was his son, Jonathan. Without telling his father, Jonathan and his armor-bearer climbed alone toward a Philistine outpost, trusting that God did not need an army to win.
Come, let's go over to the outpost of those uncircumcised men. Perhaps the Lord will act in our behalf.
Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few.
The two of them struck the outpost, and God did the rest. Panic swept the Philistine camp. The ground itself shook, and the enemy turned their swords on one another. That day the Lord saved Israel. But Saul nearly threw the victory away. He bound his whole army under a reckless oath.
Cursed be anyone who eats food before evening comes, before I have avenged myself on my enemies.
So the soldiers chased the enemy all day with no food, growing fainter by the hour. Jonathan, who had not heard the oath, came upon a honeycomb in the forest and reached out his staff to eat from it.
My father has made trouble for the country. See how my eyes brightened when I tasted a little of this honey.
By nightfall, famished by Saul's own oath, the men fell on the captured animals and ate the meat with the blood still in it, something God had forbidden. When Saul asked God whether to keep fighting, heaven went silent. Someone had sinned. Saul swore to put the guilty one to death, even if it was his own son. To find who it was, he cast lots, and they pointed to Jonathan.
May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if you do not die, Jonathan.
Should Jonathan die, he who has brought about this great deliverance in Israel? Never! As surely as the Lord lives, not a hair of his head will fall to the ground. For he did this today, with God's help.
They rescued Jonathan, and he was not put to death. Saul's pride had nearly killed his own heir, and it would not be the last time. Some time later, the word of God came to Saul again. Long before, the Amalekites had ambushed Israel as they fled from Egypt, and now their judgment had come. Through Samuel, God gave a command that left no room for half measures.
Now go, attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys.
Saul won the battle, but he did not obey. He spared Agag, the Amalekite king, and kept the best of the sheep and cattle, destroying only what was worthless. On the way back, he even stopped to set up a monument in his own honor. Then he greeted Samuel as if nothing were wrong.
The Lord bless you. I have carried out the Lord's instructions.
What then is this bleating of sheep in my ears? What is this mowing of cattle that I hear?
Saul blamed his soldiers, claiming they had saved the best animals to sacrifice to God. He had once been small in his own eyes. Now he dressed up his disobedience as worship. And Samuel gave him the verdict that would define Saul's whole life.
Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord?
To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king.
At last, Saul admitted the truth, and his confession revealed why he had failed.
I have sinned. I disobeyed the Lord's command and your instructions. I was afraid of the men, and so I gave in to them.
He feared people more than he feared God. As Samuel turned to leave, Saul grabbed his robe and it tore in his hand. Just as the robe had torn, Samuel said, "The kingdom had been torn from Saul and given to someone better than him." Yet even then, Saul cared more about his image than his sin.
I have signed. But please honor me before the elders of my people and before Israel. Come back with me, so that I may worship the Lord your God.
Samuel honored him one last time. Then Samuel himself put Agag to death, and he never saw Saul again, though he mourned for him for the rest of his days. After that day, everything changed for Saul. The Spirit of the Lord, which had once rushed upon him in power, left him. In its place came a tormenting spirit sent by God. His servants watched their king sink into misery, and they searched for something to bring him peace. They settled on music, a skilled hand on the harp to calm him when the darkness came. One of them knew exactly where to find such a man.
I have seen a son of Jesse of Bethlehem who knows how to play the lyre. He is a brave man and a warrior. He speaks well and is a fine-looking man, and the Lord is with him.
The young man was David, a shepherd from Bethlehem. He was also the one God had already chosen in secret to take Saul's throne. Saul knew none of this. He only knew that when the boy played, the storm inside him grew quiet, the dread lifted, and he could breathe again. And so the king came to love the very boy who would one day replace him.
Allow David to remain in my service, for I am pleased with him.
The Lord had left Saul and was now with David. But for a little while, the two sat together in the same room, the rejected king and the chosen shepherd, joined by the sound of a harp. It would not stay peaceful for long. By now, David was no longer only Saul's harpist. He had killed the Philistine giant Goliath, the champion Saul's whole army had feared, and after that, the king sent him to lead soldiers, where he won victory after victory, until all Israel adored him. And that adoration was about to undo Saul. When the army returned from war, the women of every town poured into the streets, dancing and singing a song that would haunt the king.
Saul had slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands.
To everyone else, it was a celebration. To Saul, it was a threat. The song gave David 10 times the honor it gave him, and one thought took root in his mind and would not let go.
They have credited David with tens of thousands, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom?
From that day, Saul watched David with jealous, fearful eyes. The next time David played the harp to soothe him, Saul seized a spear and hurled it, trying to pin him to the wall. David slipped away. Saul threw again and missed again. The hands that the music had once comforted now wanted David dead. When open violence failed, Saul turned to scheming. He offered David his daughter Michal in marriage, but it was a trap.
I will give her to him, so that she may be a snare to him, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him.
To marry the king's daughter, a man paid a bride price. For Michal, Saul set a deadly one, 100 dead Philistines as proof, certain David would fall in the attempt. Instead, David paid it twice over and married her. Everything Saul tried only made David stronger, and the people love him more. Seeing that the Lord was with David, his fear hardened into hatred. That hatred swallowed the rest of Saul's reign. He stopped fighting Israel's real enemies and turned the throne into a hunt for one man. He ordered his servants and even his son Jonathan to kill David. When David fled to his house, Saul sent men to surround it, and only his daughter Michal saved him, lowering David through a window into the night and laying an idol in his bed to buy him time. Then Saul turned on his own family. When Jonathan dared to defend his friend, the king exploded.
You son of a perverse and rebellious woman! Don't I know that you have signed with the son of Jesse to your own shame, and to the shame of the mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you or your kingdom will be established. Now send someone to bring him to me, for he must die.
When Jonathan asked what David had done to deserve death, Saul threw a spear at him too. The king who once spared his enemies was now ready to kill his own son and heir. His paranoia kept growing until it swallowed the innocent. Hearing that the priests of the town of Nob had helped David, Saul summoned them and called it treason. Their leader, the priest Ahimelech, answered with the plain truth.
Who of all your servants is as loyal as David, the king's son-in-law, captain of your bodyguard and highly respected in your household?
It made no difference. Saul ordered the priests put to death, but his own soldiers would not raise a hand against the priests of God. So Saul turned to a foreigner, Doeg the Edomite.
You turn and strike down the priests.
That day, 85 priests were killed, and the whole town of Nob, its men, women, and children, was destroyed. The man chosen to save Israel had become its worst enemy. And still he hunted David, driving him deeper into the wilderness, certain the next chase would be the last. Saul took 3,000 of his best men and went after David. And twice, God handed Saul straight into David's hands. The first time, Saul entered a cave to relieve himself, never knowing that David and his men were hidden in the dark at the back. David crept close enough to cut a piece from Saul's robe. But he would not raise a hand against him. Then he followed Saul out and called to him from a distance, holding up the cloth.
Why do you listen when men say David is bent on harming you? This day you have seen with your own eyes how Gilgal delivered you into my hands in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not lay my hand on my Lord, because he is the Lord's anointed.
Saul broke down and wept, calling the man he was hunting his own son.
You are more righteous than I. You have treated me well, but I have treated you badly.
He even confessed what he was really fighting against.
I know that you will surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hands.
But his remorse did not last. Soon Saul was hunting him again. This time David and a companion slipped into Saul's camp at night, where the whole army lay asleep, and lifted the king's own spear and water jug from beside his head. Once more, David let him live and called out across the valley, and once more, Saul wept.
I have sinned. Come back, David, my son. Because you considered my life precious today, I will not try to harm you again. Surely I have acted like a fool and had been terribly wrong.
Saul went home, but David did not follow. He had seen these tears before. Saul could weep over his sin, mean every word. and still go back to it the next morning. Years passed, and the end drew near. Samuel was dead. The Philistines gathered for one final battle, and when Saul saw their army, terror gripped him. He begged God for guidance, but heaven stayed silent. No dream, no prophet, no answer came. So the king who had once driven every medium and fortune teller out of Israel did the unthinkable. His servants knew of one who had survived his purge, a woman in the village of Endor who still called up the dead in secret. In disguise, under cover of darkness, Saul went to her.
Surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and spiritists from the land.
Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death?
Saul swore she would be safe and asked her to bring up the spirit of Samuel. When the old prophet appeared, wrapped in his robe, Saul fell on his face in fear and poured out his despair.
I am in great distress. The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has departed from me. He no longer answers me, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do.
The Lord will deliver both Israel and you into the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. The Lord will also give the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines.
The next day, it happened exactly as he said. The Philistines crushed Israel on Mount Gilboa. Saul's sons fell, Jonathan among them. Badly wounded and surrounded, Saul turned to the young man who carried his armor and begged him for a final mercy.
Draw your sword and run me through, or these uncircumcised fellows will come and run me through and abuse me.
But the armor-bearer was too afraid. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. The first king of Israel, who had once hidden from his own crown, died by his own hand on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines found his body, cut off his head, and hung it on a city wall to mock the fallen king of Israel. But the people of Jabesh-Gilead remembered. They were the towns Saul had rescued in his very first battle, and now they crossed into enemy land by night, recovered his body, and gave their king an honorable burial. When David heard that Saul was dead, he did not celebrate the death of the man who had hunted him. He wept.
How the mighty have fallen!
That is the rise and fall of King Saul, the man who started with everything and ended alone, by his own hand on a lonely hill. Look at what his story leaves us. First, obedience is not a test you pass once. It is a daily choice. Saul never set out to rebel. He just kept choosing his own way in small things, until partial obedience became no obedience at all. The God who said it to Saul still says it to us. To obey is better than sacrifice. Second, be careful whose approval you live for. Even as God was rejecting him, Saul's deepest worry was that the elders would see him shamed. A man who fears people more than God will be slowly hollowed out by that fear. Third, jealousy and fear destroy the very things they are trying to protect. Saul threw spears to keep his throne and lost his peace, his son's loyalty, and finally, his life. The harder he gripped the crown, the faster it slipped away. And last, Saul was not a monster. He was a warning. He began humble, brave, and filled with God's Spirit. He even wept over his sin again and again. But tears are not the same as turning. God gives second chances generously, but a heart that will not bend to him will bend to fear instead. Do not mistake feeling sorry for actually changing. Saul's crown passed to a shepherd God had chosen long before, a man who held Saul's life in his hands twice and let him live. If you want to see the kind of heart God was looking for all along, watch the story of David next, the shepherd boy who would become Israel's greatest king. If a story like this matters to you, subscribe to Arc Films channel so you never miss one. And if you want to go further, join the Arc crew and help us bring the word of God to people all over the world. That means the world to us. Tell us in the comments, what Bible story should we cover next?